Say good evening. Well, we know Sonic Cadet. It's a great pleasure this afternoon that we welcome Lieutenant Colonel Quintyne to come and speak to us again. Remember the last time he was here, he told us so much about the regiment and colors and flags and so much history. He spoke to us about last time that we just had to ask him to come and speak to us again. But today he's going to speak to us on a more specific topic, and that's flags and colors. I'm sure that he has a further wealth of knowledge to give us all this afternoon. I'm sure you're going to be attentive and you listen clearly to everything he has to say. So let's welcome Lieutenant Colonel Quintyne this evening. Thank you.
Officers of the Deighton Griffith Cadet Company and cadets, it's always a pleasure for me to come to Deighton Griffith because I have been with you almost from the beginning, and I have been watching your progress every step of the way to see how far you're going to go. And in addition to coming to Deighton Griffith, it is always a very great pleasure for me to speak to the younger citizens of our country. I have devoted most of my life to dealing with and training young people because I believe that the young people of the country are its future. And if they are not well trained, then our hope is lost. So I want you all pay very careful attention to what I'm going to say here this evening. It is all very interesting and all very historical, and I would like to think that some of you would take a particular interest in this subject, because I certainly enjoyed the subject, and I for many years have devoted a lot of attention and research to it. What I'm going to speak to you about this evening is colors, flags, and banners. I'm going to say something now. I want you to listen very carefully because I'm about to say something and then ask you a question. A moth-eaten rag on a worm-eaten pole. Does that seem likely to stir any man's soul? Would you think so? A moth-eaten rag on a worm-eaten pole? What does that do? Does that stir anything inside you? Not likely, is it? It's not that. It is the deeds that were done beneath that moth-eaten rag. When that pole was a staff and that rag was a flag. Now I want you all to remember that little verse I have just said and take it through your life with you. Because after all, what is a flag? What is a flag? A flag is a piece of cloth, really. But it has a particular symbolism and a particular meaning. The flag of a country is the visible symbol of the invisible spirit of the country. So when a really loyal person of that country, and for purposes of this evening's lecture, I won't go to any other country, I'm talking about Barbados. Every loyal citizen of Barbados, when he sees the blue and gold flag of Barbados, it should stir something inside of him, no matter where he is, no matter what part of the world he is. That flag should stir something inside of him. And I would like to think that that will be the case with you as well. So whenever we start to speak of colors, flags, and banners, I want you all to think from your heart. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I want you to understand the differences between colors, flags, and banners. They're all very similar, but they're different in their similarity. Strange words, those. Let us deal first with banners. Think of a banner as a piece of fabric of varying dimensions and proportions, comprising one or more colors, on which is inscribed various symbols or devices which are peculiar to or representative of particular individuals or organizations. That merely means that a banner is a piece of fabric on which is placed a number of symbols that mean something to a number of people. And one person's banner will not mean the same thing to him as another person's banner will mean. And the same thing goes for a flag. What is a flag? A flag again is a piece of fabric, but a flag has more control to it. It is controlled by international dimensions and proportions, and it usually comprises one or more colors. Can you think of any flag that is just one color? Do any of you know of a flag that is one color? Just one color. You can't think of it. Later I'll show you one. I'll show you a flag that is just one color. I'll show you one. Anyway, it is comprising a number of one or more colors, and again, on it is superimposed or inscribed various symbols and devices which represent particular organizations or countries, or even individuals. Now let us think of colors. The main difference between banners and flags and colors is that colors are what are called consecrated. Do you know what the word consecrated means? Who would like to volunteer telling me what the word consecrated means? Anybody? Nobody? Yes. Pardon? They are blessed, yes. They are dedicated to the service of God. And it doesn't matter whether your God is Jehovah, Buddha, all of the other strange gods that there are out and about. But it matters not. Your colors are consecrated to the service of that God. And that is the difference between colors and flags and banners. And the act of consecration makes colors very sacred. So I want you to remember that when you see the colors of any organization, they are very sacred. And it matters not that they are not your colors, or whose colors, whichever organization they are, whichever army, whichever formation, those colors are sacred, and they are consecrated to God. Now, let us think in terms of the dimensions. By that I mean the measurements of colors and flags. Now, the dimensions and proportions of international flags are controlled by international law. There's an international understanding about the dimensions of flags. There are specific dimensions. flags. And these are recorded at the United Nations. I have with me a chart which will show you the flags of the world recorded at the United Nations. Would you come here, miss? Please. Would you come here? There you are. Don't stand in front of it. Stand at this side. Stand this side. All right, now just hold it and turn it around so they can see it. Those are all of the flags of the world that are recorded at the United Nations. I suspect there's another one. I believe they had a new member week before last. But there you are. On that, of course, the flag of South Africa is different. That is slightly older than the new Republic of South Africa. So the South African flag on that is different. But if you come from a foreign country, look there and you'll probably see your flag. They're on there in alphabetical order. So if you're looking for Zimbabwe or Zambia, look down here. And if you're looking for Albania or something like that, they're up here. And so on all the way down. Alright? You can just lay that down for me. Lay it down flat. Lay it down face up. Okay. So there you see the flags that are recorded with the United Nations, the flags, the international flags of all of the nations. And those flags, as I said, have particular dimensions. Let us deal with our own flag, the Barbados flag. Does anybody know what the proportions of the Barbados flag are? In other words, what size flags can you get? Does anybody know? Well, the Barbados flag is internationally recorded in the proportions 2 to 3. 2 to 3. It means that if the flag is 2 feet in what is called breadth, it is 3 feet in width. If it is 4 feet in breadth, it is 6 feet in width. If it is 6 feet in breadth, it is 9 feet in width. If it is 10 feet in breadth, it is 15 feet in width. You see, the proportions are 2 to 3. 2 this way by 3 that way. Other flags are in the proportion 1 to 2. There are various flags. The Union Jack, which we all know, is in the proportion 1 to 2. The Jamaica flag, which I don't know how many of you know this to be the flag of Jamaica, that is in the proportion 1 to 2. You see? You see it's not the same shape as the Barbados flag? There? It's not the same shape. It's a different proportion. And so internationally that flag is registered in that proportion, 1 to 2. So that's what is it. So there you see it. It's a different shape from our own flag. Okay. Now, the dimensions and the proportions vary from country to country. And of course, if they're flags of individuals, they vary from individual to individual. And the same thing happens with the colors of armies. With different nationalities, the colors are different dimensions. Now, all of the Commonwealth countries, these are the countries that comprise the British Empire before the British Empire was dissolved and called the British Commonwealth, and now called the Commonwealth. They all have the same traditions when it comes to things like colors. And all of the colors of all of the Commonwealth countries are 3 feet 9 in width and 3 feet in breadth. 3 feet 9 by 3 feet. Perhaps you're not familiar with feet, are you? It is 1.14 meters by 0.91 meters. 1.14 by 0.91 meters. And they are carried on a pole that is called a pike. A pike. And that is 2.63 meters tall. So anywhere in the Commonwealth you go and you see a military formation on parade carrying its colors, you will see that the colors are 1.14 meters by 0.91 meters, and the pike on which the colors are being carried is 2.63 meters tall. Now just remember that. It is 3 feet by 3 feet 9, and on a pike 8 feet 7.5 inches tall. Now, again, because of the dimensions of flags, flags are usually correctly flown on a mast that the height is proportionate to the flag. Because it would look very funny if you had a 6-foot mast and on it you put an 8-foot flag. What would happen to it? They'd be dragging on the ground. Or it would look equally funny if you had a 40-foot mast and on it you put a 2-foot flag. It would look like a little thing up there, like a little pennant up there. So usually the flag is to be 1/5 of the height of the pole. So when you were flying a flag on a pole, if you were flying it, say, on a 10-foot pole, the breadth of the flag, the depth from top to bottom, should be 2 feet. If you're flying it on a 20-foot pole, the breadth of the flag should be 4 feet. And so on and so forth. If you were going to fly it on a say a 30-foot pole, then the breadth of the flag would be 6 feet from top to bottom. So that you get the right proportions. Otherwise it looks funny with a tall pole and a little flag. So remember that the flag is proportionate to the height of the pole. And may I also say that in Barbados it is a rule that the national flag should only be flown on a white mast. A white. Nowadays we are accepting the silver aluminium mast, but really technically the mast should be white. So you shouldn't fly the national flag on a red, white and blue staff, or a pink and yellow one, or something like that. On Carnival Day you say it's nice to fly it on a nice colored staff. That's wrong. It must be flown on a white staff. Now, what I want to do now is to describe for you, because I've been talking about flags and talking about the parts of flags and so on, and I want to describe to you how flags are put together. The flag is, all flags are put together in a particular way. Now, where's your sister? Now there you have a flag with its parts named. It's very difficult for you to see it, I know. But the flag you will see is divided into 4 quarters, and these quarters are called quadrants. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You see them? They're called 4 quadrants. This quadrant here, right at top, because here you see the toggle, which is the top of the flag. This quadrant here is what is called the senior quadrant of the flag. That is called the canton. The canton. C-A-N-T-O-N. The canton. That's what that word is saying. The canton, C-A-N-T-O-N. I'm sorry that the reproduction is not all that good. Is there any way? Can we focus? I think it's about to be.
Yeah, the side, yeah.
Okay. But that is the senior portion of the flag. That's the first quadrant of the flag. Note where it is. It is at the top of the flag, next to the sleeve or next to the pole. This part of the flag is called the sleeve, or the heading. That's the white part of the flag. You know the white strip on the side of the flag that the rope is in? That is the sleeve of the flag, or the heading. That little wooden knob at the top is called the toggle. There. And this little piece down here, a rope, is called the tack. And this little thing is called the eye. This little loop is called the eye. Okay? So you have the sleeve, or the heading, the toggle, the tack, and the eye. And the quadrant of the flag that is at the top and closest to the toggle is called the canton. And that is the senior part of the flag. The next most senior part of the flag is the second quadrant. Here. And then, of course, the third quadrant and the fourth quadrant. Now this half of the flag is called the hoist. The hoist. Quite naturally it comes from the part of the flag that is hoisted up by. And this part of the flag is called the flag. I think you can see it there, the hoist and the flag. The length of the flag runs from the sleeve to the far edge of the flag. That is called the length of the flag. The breadth of the flag runs from the toggle down to the bottom of the sleeve. So that's the breadth of the flag. So the breadth. And the length is this way, the breadth is that way. Now, as I was telling you, when you're going to fly this flag on the pole, whatever this distance is, the pole should be 5 times that. So if it is 2 feet, you must put that flag on a 10-foot pole. If it is 3 feet, you put that flag on a 15-foot pole. If it is 4 feet, you put the flag on a 20-foot pole. The ideal pole for the Barbados flag is a 20-foot pole. We tend to fly a flag that is 4 feet by 6 feet. There you are. I'll leave that there for a minute so that you can see. Now, I've told you about the parts of the flag because from time to time I'm going to be referring to those parts. When I'm talking to you about a flag, I will now start to refer to those parts of the flag. Now let us deal with the origins of these things. Colors, flags, and banners. The origin, you will see that the colors are 1.14 meters by 0.9. The Bible. It appears in the Bible in Numbers chapter 2. Numbers chapter 2 in the Bible. And you will see in Numbers chapter 2, the Bible says something like this. The children of Israel shall encamp, each under the banner of his division and the flag of his father's house. Think about that. The Bible says, the children of Israel shall encamp, each under the banner of his division and the flag of his father's house. Each family had a family flag. The Bible goes on to tell them what and the pike on which the colours are being carried is 2.63 meters tall. Now just remember that. I cannot recall these symbols now, but there were 12 tribes of Israel and there were 12 symbols. And I seem to think that one was a lion's head, one was the head of an ass, and so on, and one was a serpent, and so on. So each flag had a different symbol on it. And that symbol signified the tribe from which the flag came. Now it is believed that the Egyptians were the first people to carry symbols into battle. Again, during my research, I have come across reference to the Egyptians carrying symbols into battle, and there's reference to the Egyptian soldier who is supposed to have killed Cyrus of Persia. He was allowed the honor of marching at the head of the Egyptian army carrying a golden cock. That was the symbol of his honor. Thereafter, the custom was used tactically, because the symbols and the banners and the standards and the flags were taken into battle, and they were used as a rallying point for the tribe. So when they were out there in the battle and all hell was loose out there, and they were killing, and there was blood flowing, and people were howling, and there was screaming, and there was fighting, and there was carrying on, and so on, and a member of a tribe wanted to find out where his headquarters had got to, he just stood and looked around to see where his particular flag was. And wherever he saw that flag, he knew that that was where the headquarters of his tribe was. And if he needed to sort of converge on it, he moved towards that flag. After that, the Romans were fighting the Egyptians. And they realized that the Egyptians were using this thing to great tactical value. So the Romans started to carry symbols, carry the Roman standard. So wherever the Roman army went, it marched with the Roman standard. And again, that was used tactically to designate the headquarters of the Roman army. And of course, the Romans then conquered right across Europe, all the way over to England. And they took the custom with them. So the custom took root in England. And then England was divided into what was called a set of fiefdoms. That means there were like some big plantations, big estates, each owned by some, what you all would call some bigger guy who owned this big plantation and this estate. And then each one of these people raised his own army to protect his own estate. And so they adopted the custom of using their family badge on a flag to mark the headquarters of their private army. Each landowner had to raise, train, clothe, arm a number of men at his own expense. And the number of men usually comprised a number that was proportionate to the size of the plantation. So a plantation that was 50,000 acres would have a larger army than one that was 10,000 acres. So the number of men was always proportionate to the size of the fiefdom, they called it. Now at that time there was no standing army. The country did not have an army. So whenever the sovereign needed to defend the whole country, the sovereign would call on these, what they were called feudal lords, to produce an army. So there would be an army drawn from Boscobel, an army drawn from Spikestown, an army drawn from Ragged Point, an army drawn from South Point, and so on and so forth. And they would all come together. They would come marching in bearing their owner's standard. And when they joined together, then they were allowed to march behind the sovereign standard. So now they had two standards they were marching behind. They were marching behind the sovereign standard, and then they were marching behind their owner's standard. Now this practice was continued till 1485. 1485. What year did I say the practice was continued until? Well done. It was continued till 1485 when King Henry VII raised the first units of the British regular army. The first units of the British regular army. And that unit was called the Yeomen of the Guard. That unit still exists in England today. The Yeomen of the Guard. They are the keepers of the Tower of London and the Crown Jewels. And they are responsible for the safety of the sovereign. The Yeomen of the Guard. They call them the Beefeaters. Have you ever seen a Beefeater? You never seen a Beefeater? Where have you seen a Beefeater? What? Let me hear you. On the television. Where else do you see a Beefeater? And on a pike 8 feet 7.5 inches tall. In quite elaborate red scarlet uniform and so on, and holding a spear. And he's called a Beefeater, a Yeoman of the Guard. Up to that point, there had been no standing army. There was a standing army. And each company of the standing army was required to carry a flag of a particular color, so that you could tell which company it was. So A company would probably have a flag, a red flag. B company would probably have a gold flag. C company would probably have a green flag, and so on and so forth. So these were called company flags. They later came to be called company colors. Can we turn this off now? They later came to be called company colors. About the end of the 17th century, a decree came down saying that companies in the regular army were no longer to carry colors, and that each regiment would be allowed to carry two colors. One color being the color of the sovereign's color, and the other color being the regimental color. So each regiment was allowed to carry two colors. One color, the sovereign's color, and the other, the regimental color. And even in Barbados that is so. The Barbados regiment carries two colors. I don't think you can see it too well. That's about as good as we're going to get it. But there you see, the one at top is the Queen's colour of the Barbados regiment, and the one at bottom is the regimental colour. I have got them here in much better relief. Here you can probably see them much better. I have them here somewhere. There they are. Okay? The Queen's colour and the regimental colour. The Queen's colour is the flag of Barbados, but it has inscribed in the canton, you remember the canton that I told you about? The senior quadrant of the colour. In the canton you will see the Queen's, you can't see it, the Queen's cipher. Here. Okay? The regimental colour has inscribed in the center of it the badge of the regiment. And there you see it, the badge of the Barbados Regiment. The crown over the badge symbolizes. There you see the Queen's cipher here in the canton and the name of the regiment. And here you see the regimental badge and the Queen's crown. So that is the Queen's colour and the regimental colour. Now, there are particular occasions when colours are carried. And depending on the occasion, either one or both of the colours are carried by a regiment in public. As a general rule, the sovereign's colour is only carried in public on occasions when the sovereign is present. The sovereign or members of the royal family or representatives of foreign governments, visiting heads of state, that is, or the sovereign's representative. Who is the sovereign's representative in Barbados? Would you like to tell me? Who is the Queen's representative in Barbados? Who is the Queen's representative in Barbados? The Governor General. What's the Governor General's name? Now, whenever colours of a regiment appear in public, they are carried by what we call in the army subalterns. Subalterns.
Marching class. There goes the colour party. Regimental colour on the right. Queen's.
Now again, that is a tradition, because in the old days, the feudal lord selected the most handsome, the most dashing, the most skillful, the most courageous young man to carry his colour. And what do you think the reason for that is? Little man propping on his chin behind you. What is the reason for that? You don't even know what the question is. All right, sit down. Can anybody tell me what the reason for selecting this very special young man was? Yeah?
Because he wanted to show them people that they have training their.
That's a good idea, but that's not quite the reason. Yes, Connect. Well, he had to be outstanding, but for another reason, actually. Anybody else wants to take a shy? Yes. He would be proud to carry it, you said? He'd be proud to carry it? No, there's another reason why you selected the most courageous, the most skillful, the most dashing. Yes. So you can do the country proud? Well, not quite right. Tell me, not you again. This one. Yes. Yeah, the fellow had his hand up. All right, sit down. The reason why this young man was selected was that the colour was entrusted to him and he had to protect it with his life. He had to protect it with his life. So usually he carried the colour in his left hand and his drawn sword in his right hand. And he allowed no one to come near that colour. And he would fight to the death so that that colour was not captured. He would not hand over that colour to anyone without a fight to the death. That is why the colour was given to the most skillful and the most courageous and the strongest young officer in the unit. You got me now? He had to protect it with his life. And that tradition still holds today. When the officers bring the colours out of the officers' mess where they are kept, they are responsible for the safekeeping of the colors. And they are to hand that color over to no one. They are to take it back from whence it came. So when they bring it out, they have to take it back in. So if they have to defend it with their lives, then so be it. But usually the color is escorted by an armed escort. When you see the colors marching, you will see marching with it a number of soldiers with fixed bayonets. And their job is to protect that color as well. Now when the color is out in barracks, moving around in barracks, it is escorted by a small color party. If it is one color, usually if it is one color, it is escorted by 2 soldiers. Usually they're sergeant majors. What is it? Sergeants major? Usually they are sergeants major or color sergeants. And they escort the color around in barracks. If the color is going out in public, it is escorted, the regimental color, if it's going alone, is escorted by a minimum of 48 soldiers, armed soldiers. If the Queen's color is going out, it should be escorted by 100 armed.
They're carrying canes. The canes are placed under their left
half of the Guard of Honor.
The right half of the Guard of Honor, marching fast. There goes the colour party. Regimental colour on the right, Queen's colour. The Queen's colour on the right, the regimental colour on the left. The left half of the Guard.
And when it is moving around in public, it is protected by an escort. The regimental colour, a minimum of 48 soldiers. The Queen's colour, 100 soldiers, armed soldiers. Now there are certain compliments that must be paid to colours. Now pay attention to this, because one day you might find yourself in the position, particularly the NCOs, where you are in charge of a squad or a platoon or a company, and the regimental colours, the Queen's colour, appears in front of you. There are certain things that you have to do. You have to pay compliments to that colour. So if you are in charge of a squad of cadets, and if you're a cadet, and there's no NCO present, and you are the senior cadet, you have to do this. You call the squad to attention, you turn it to face the direction from which the colour is approaching, and you present arms. If they're not armed, you turn them to face the direction from which the colour is approaching, and you salute. If the troops are armed, they must present arms. Is that clear? So if you happen to find yourself, and it happens, you might just be marching a squad along, and suddenly looming up in front of you is a colour party with the colours. If suppose you're marching. If you're marching, you halt them, turn them to face the flank on which the colour is going to pass, and present arms. If they're not armed, you turn them to face the flank on which the colour is going to pass, and you yourself salute. Is that clear? Again, if you are in camp, and a unit, an armed unit, is coming into the camp with colours, the guard has to turn out and present arms to the colours. So you will probably see in the garrison that when the regiment's colours are marching in the gate, if the duty officer is bright and alert and knows his job, he will turn the guard out and he will present arms to the colours. It doesn't always happen. When it doesn't happen, the guard commander and the duty officer are asleep. They don't know their job. So if you're ever in the garrison and you see the colours coming in or going out the gate, and the guard is not turned out paying compliments, you can say to the guard commander, "You're not worth the stripes on your arm." Okay? It means he doesn't know his job. If you are in a cadet camp or in camp somewhere and somebody's colors are marching in or out, you turn out the guard and you present arms to the colors. Okay? These are compliments that must be paid to the colors. If you are alone, an individual, and you see a color party approaching you, you must halt, turn to face the direction that the colors are going to, the flank on which the color is going to pass, and salute. An individual soldier must halt, or cadet must halt, turn to face the colors, and salute till the colors go past you. Is that clear? Now this could easily happen to you. You could be in the garrison, walking along there, and suddenly the color party comes out of the officers' mess. Well, what you have to do is you stand to attention, turn to face the front, and salute. Now, is it that? No, I was just about to ask that, say on Independence Day, but the colors don't march out with the troops. The colors come from another direction. So remember that compliments have to be paid to the colors, because the colors are symbolic of the sovereign and they're symbolic of the spirit of the regiment. Now let us deal with the rules for the use of flags. Let us deal with the rules for the use of flags. Now the flag is used in various ways for various reasons, and there are a number of ways in which the flag is not to be used. And that is written into the law of Barbados, which is part of the law of Barbados here. Now when the flag is being flown, it must always be flown alone on the flagpole on which it stands. Don't mind the Americans. Don't copy the Americans. They have their own style. Our traditions are older than theirs. Barbadian soldiers fought in the American War of Independence. When the Americans in 1776 were fighting to have their own parliament and things like this, Barbados had already had theirs from 1639. General Cornwallis formed up an army at Barbados to go and fight in the American War of Independence. Don't copy the Americans. We have our own traditions that are older than anything in the United States. Don't copy the Americans. I'm very firm on that. So when the flag is being flown, no other flag should fly on that same mast. The Barbados flag must fly alone on the mast on which it's flying. I know the Americans fly several flags. I remember when McDonald's restaurant was opened here in Barbados, they had a very large Barbados flag, and underneath it they had a very large American flag. I had to speak with them and ask them, please remove it, because no other flag should fly on the same pole as the Barbados flag. If the Barbados flag is being flown with other flags, it must be in the senior position. Now when a line of soldiers are standing up, where is the senior position? Can I ask you? Where's the senior position in a line of soldiers? If a line of cadets are standing up, where does the senior cadet stand in the line? In the line. In the line. If a line of cadets are standing up, where does the senior cadet stand in the line? Well, you said in front, but suppose she or he is not to be in front, where would he stand? Where does the corporal stand in a section? If you have a section of cadets standing up, where would the corporal stand? All right. On the right-hand side. on the right-hand side. He stands on the right of the line, because the right of the line is the senior position. The right-hand side of the flag is the senior position. So when a line of cadets or a line of people are standing, the senior person stands on the right-hand side. So when you are lining up a number of flags, it matters not whose flags they are or what flags they are, as long as they're being lined up in Barbados and the Barbados flag is present. Where do you put the Barbados flag? Little man on the end. Little man on the end. He doesn't even know I'm speaking to him. Yes, you. Stand up. You heard the question? You didn't hear the question. You couldn't hear the question if you weren't paying attention. So pay attention in future. Is that clear? Sit down. If a line of flags are being lined up in Barbados, where do you put the Barbados flag in that line? All right, lad. Up on your feet, yes. Yes. Get up. Yeah. Not top right. You put it to the right of the line. The right of the line. And remember, if you are facing the line, the right of the line is to your left. Is that right? In other words, when you are commanding a squad of cadets and you're facing them, the senior person is on your left. So if you're looking at a line of flags, the Barbados flag should be the first flag on the left there. The other flags are then lined up in alphabetical order. So you'd have the Barbados flag, and then you'd have the flag of Antigua, and the Bahamas, and Canada, and Dominica, and Egypt, and what was F? France, okay, Guadeloupe, not Guadeloupe if you have France, Ghana, and so on. So you have the Barbados flag on the right, and then the others come down from right to left in alphabetical order. Is that clear? So if you ever have to put up flags anywhere, that is how it is done. The Barbados flag on the right, and then the others from right to left in alphabetical order. And incidentally, the British flag is called the United Kingdom. So the English flag usually finds itself quite far down the line, because that's in position of U. Okay? It is just ahead of the United States. The United States is down at the end of the line down there as well. And of course you would have probably starting with Antigua and finishing with Zimbabwe or Zambia. You see? Have you got that? The Barbados flag on the right, and then the other flags in alphabetical order from the right to the left. When the two flags are placed, like the colors, are placed on a wall. Suppose you were going to put up the Barbados flag and your school flag up on a wall in the hall, say, crossed like this. The Barbados flag must hang to the right. Is that clear? It must always be on the right. It hangs to the right like this, and the other flag hangs to the left, like that. The flag is not to fly after sunset. The Barbados flag is not to fly after sunset, unless it has a floodlight on it. Is there a place in Barbados where you notice the flag flying and there's no light on it after sunset? Have you ever noticed? Have you ever seen a place in Barbados where the flag flies and there's no light on it after sunset? Go past the public buildings one day. They made the law, but they don't keep it. The public buildings, the House of Parliament. The law was made in the House of Parliament. And if you go past the House of Parliament at night, you will see that the Barbados flag on the top of the clock tower is flying, and there is no light on it, quite often. They only put a light on it when I raise hell. And then when the bulb blows, they don't replace it. This week it is flying with no light on it. I would like you to raise hell about it. I want the young people to speak up and ask why the flag of Barbados is flying on the public buildings after sunset with no light on it. Okay? How about a letter from the number 19 Cadet Company? Write to the Speaker of the House of Assembly. Number 19 Cadet Company, all of you sign it. And say you have, with due respect, you have observed that the flag is flying with no light on. I'm not asking you to commit a mutiny, but it might work better than when I write to him. The flag must never be laid on the ground. There is only one occasion on which the flag of Barbados is laid on the ground. Can anybody tell me when that occasion is? Yes. No. No. There's a way, I'll show you that in a minute, how it is laid on dead people. Anybody knows when the flag is put on the ground? The only occasion? Yes? When you pray? No, the flag must never touch the ground except on this one occasion. Pardon? Correct. Sergeant is right. Give her a chair. The only time the flag of Barbados is laid on the ground is when you are saluting the sovereign or the sovereign's representative. Is that clear? So you will see that the colors of the regiment, when the Governor General arrives and they're playing the royal salute, the colors are laid on the ground. That's the only time that that flag is supposed to touch the ground. When you're flying the flag at half-mast, half-staff, half-mast, right, as you can do, there's a particular way that the flag is to fly at half-mast. The way it is done is that the flag, if it is not yet flying, like if you're going to raise it in the morning, you raise the flag up to the top of the pole. Is that clear? And then you lower it down its breadth. So if the flag is a 4x6 flag, you lower it down 4 feet from the top. If it's a 2x3 flag, you lower it down 2 feet from the top. If it is a 10x15 flag, you lower it 10 feet down from the top. Is that clear? So it's the breadth of the flag from the top. That is called half-mast or half-staff. Not halfway down. It is not lowered halfway down. Most people think that is how it's to be done, but it's not to be done that way. As cadets, you have to know these things and you have to be able to say to people, no, 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 no. You don't lower it halfway down the staff. So it isn't on a 20-foot staff, it is not down at 10 feet. The top of the flag on a 20-foot staff would be 5 feet from the top of the flag, of the pole, 5 feet down. Okay? Because normally, 4 feet, I'm sorry, 4 feet down. Because it would be a 4x6 flag that is flying on a 20-foot pole. So you lower it down just the breadth of the flag from the top. Now I want to show you, and again, when the flag is being taken down, if it is flying at half-mast, and when do you fly a flag at half-mast? Who can tell me? Yes, have a go. When you're in a state of mourning, when someone has died, the national flag, somebody of some importance, the national flag is flown at half-mast. Yes.
So then does the flag stay on the coffin on all things?
Stay there?
Stay on the coffin.
On a.
All times.
But if it stays on what?
The coffin.
On the coffin. I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. Now, we come to the business of the flag being used as a tablecloth. Some people think that it is very nice if they're going to present a cup on sports day or present something. They have a nice mahogany table and they spread a nice Barbados flag on the table. Never do that. Never do that. Some people think it is very nice if they're going to have a plaque put up on a wall that's to be unveiled, they hang the flag in front of it. Never do that. That is a no-no. Never do that. The flag is not to be used as a tablecloth or a drape or any of those things. Never ever. If you want to do that, get a piece of aquamarine cloth or something. Never the flag. So you never use the flag as a tablecloth or a drape or anything of that kind. Now the flag is also used from time to time to cover the coffin of a deceased personage. There we are. Look at it. There is a right way and a wrong way to do it. In most cases in Barbados it is done wrong. That is the right way. Now let me point out what lets you know it is right. That is the head of the coffin. Right there. The duppy's head is up there. And he is lying on his back with his eyes open, closed, sorry. The place where the head is the senior part of the coffin. And the duppy's right shoulder is the senior part of the duppy. So where do you put the senior part of the flag? On the duppy's right shoulder. Over the duppy's right shoulder. So you put the canton of the flag here. Now how do you know that the canton of the flag is there? You know how you can tell just by looking at it? Look at the picture in the newspaper. I always do this. Whenever there's a military funeral or something, I look at the picture in the newspaper and I say, wrong. Just look one glance and I know it's wrong. You know why I know it's wrong? Because the trident is pointing the wrong way. Look at that. You see that? Look at that. In most cases in Barbados, when you see a military funeral, that is how they have the flag on the coffin. Wrong! Because the canton is not in the senior place. So remember that. It is what is called canton dexter. Canton dexter. Do they do Latin anymore in these places? The word dexter in Latin means right. Right. So the flag is put on the coffin, canton dexter. Canton to the right. And you know what the flag is in the right, facing the right way, because the trident is pointing to the right. Pointing to the duppy's right shoulder, right side. The canton is over the duppy's right shoulder. Okay? Remember that. You may be called upon to drape a coffin one day. The canton is over the duppy's right shoulder. Yes?
So is that ornament in the middle?
What?
Is that ornament on the treasure?
Yes, I'll tell you all about that in a minute. Now the flag is put on the coffin in this way. And usually the best flag is a 6x9 flag, not a 4x6. A 4x6 rarely covers the coffin completely. So you want a 6x9. Is that clear? And it's put on the coffin in this way. Now then, the hat, the helmet, the cap, the headdress of the deceased is placed over his face. Like over his head. Like that's where he would have it if he was wearing it, didn't he? There. His medals are placed over his chest. That is where he'd be wearing it. Usually they're put on a little black cushion and pinned on, and they're put over the person's chest. His belt, in the case of a soldier or a private, his belt and his bayonet is put over his waist. In the case of an officer, it would be a sword or a Sam Brown, I think. His Sam Brown and his sword would be put here. That's the sword. This is a soldier's funeral, so that it is his belt and his bayonet. Is that clear? And then his family is allowed to put a wreath, one wreath, on the coffin. So nothing else goes on that flag. The helmet, the medals, the belt and bayonet and sidearm, the belt and sidearm as they call it, or the sash and sword of an officer, and a wreath. Now that is borne by a number of bearers, and that is borne down to the grave, taken to the grave and put on the bier, what they call the bier at the grave. And at that point, the flag is taken off the coffin, before the coffin is lowered away. So there's a particular drill for doing it, which we won't go into today, but the helmet, the medals, the belt, and the wreath are all taken off. The flag is folded in a particular way and taken away. We do not present the flag to the widow, because usually widows are very unhappy to receive the flag. The Americans do it. But usually widows look at the flag and say, "This is what you're giving me for my husband." They don't like it, usually. But we do not present flags to widows. That is an American custom. Our custom is to fold that flag and take it back to headquarters and put it on the mast tomorrow. Yes? Pension. Okay? So there we are. Now there are other little things that we do at funerals. I'll show you another little interesting little thing that happens at a funeral. That the colors are what is called draped at a funeral, put into mourning. That is the color that is put into mourning. Imagine that is the regimental color or the Queen's color. You notice that something happens there to it? What has happened to it? What's different about it? How is that different from the other one I showed you just now? Is it different? How is it different? Do you see any difference? What's the difference? All right? That one at top is called, what is called draped. Nothing is to be shiny. Nothing is to be shiny. You'll notice that the lion at top is covered with black crepe. It is covered with a little black crepe bag. There. A nice little bow and so on, and the drapes are hanging down. That is what is called draped. Colors are draped. And when colors are taken at a funeral, that is how they're carried. Never with the shiny thing shining. And of course, the policemen and so on are supposed to do that as well, and the drum major's mace is supposed to be draped and so on. I haven't got that slide with me. But the drum major's mace is also like that. The head is covered and the whole mace is covered in black. So when you see the drum major at a funeral, you don't see any part of his mace shining. It is just one black thing. And he doesn't, when he's marching at a funeral, he doesn't wave his mace around. He marches with the mace at what is called the trail, all the time. So there's no celebration and so on with the mix. Okay, so that is how flags are treated, colors are treated for funerals. Okay, now there's one other thing I want to show you about the flag, and this is also important, and you can do this in your school, you can do it in your father's office or your mother's office, or you can do that. Make sure that they get it right. There is a correct way for the flag to be draped and hanging from its pike if it is say up on the platform. You know, when the flag is up on the platform of the school, well, there's a correct way for the flag to be, and this is how it is. What do you notice about it? Do you notice anything special about it? The trident, what happens to the trident? It's pointing to the right. The flag is canton dexter. It's not just hanging down on the pike, so the flag isn't just a hang down. When the flag is up there, it should be canton dexter. The trident, just like you put it on the duppy, it hangs up there the same way. You try to drape it to get it to look like that. Look. There's a particular way to do it, to get it to look like that. Just by pushing the thing in the back and pulling it on the pike like that. And that's how it should look. When it is standing up on the platform or somewhere inside. Canton dexter. The trident pointing to the right. So that you as a cadet must know that. You will see a number of politicians and so on sometimes making speeches. And the flag is not right. Yes. When the subaltern is carrying the colors? Yes. If he has the color correctly dressed, he has it. That's how he dresses the color. The color is dressed. This is how you dress the color. You fold it around so that the trident is to the front, canton dexter. Gravel it and do that. I know. But that is why you see the subaltern is allowed on parade to freely deal with the color. Because if the wind blows it and gets it wrong, he's supposed to get it back right. So all the time, whenever he moves on parade, that's how the color should look. Down like that, hanging down on the pike, canton dexter. Remember these things.
And the troops are put in order, that is to say their front rank takes a step.
All of these things you might say, what is that all about? That really doesn't apply to me. Are you really not interested in that? That's not so. You are a cadet. You must know these things. And you must go out there in the community, and when you get to your church and the flag is not hanging correctly, you go and tell the priest. You say, that flag is not hanging correctly, would you like me to correct it for you? And you go and you correct it and show him how it's supposed to be hanging. And soon all the flags in Barbados will be hanging correctly. Okay? You can do it. You can make a difference. Each one of you can make a difference. So long as you know it and you know you're right, you make a difference. Now what I want to do is to show you how the flag is folded. This is the flag. Whose flag is this? Do you recognize this? Okay. Yes. Now what I want to do is to show you how a flag. Now when you remember when the flag was on the coffin? You remember that picture? Now this is how the flag is taken off the coffin and what is done with it. When it is put down on the bier over the grave, two soldiers, usually they're sergeants, take the flag off the coffin. And they take it off in a particular way. Now who would like to help me? You come first. Suppose the flag is on the coffin, canton dexter, okay? It's on the coffin. What you do is you go up, you undress it first, that is you take all the things off it, and those things are handed to an orderly. So there's an orderly standing there, and the person undressing the thing takes off the belt, hands it to the orderly, takes off the medals, hands it to the orderly, takes off the helmet, hands it to the orderly. And then the two people take the flag up off the coffin, and they go step back a little, step back. They have to clear the coffin. So what they do is they go either to their right or their left. They know which side they're going to go there. So what you have to do is do 2 paces left close, or you do 2 paces right close. Ready? Okay? So you're not clear of the coffin. Hold it up there. So when you take it off the coffin, hold it out firm. Take it up off the coffin, hold it out firm, and your left close, your right close to clear the coffin. And then you fold it. You bring the bottom, the junior part of the flag has to come to meet the senior part of the flag. Do that. Make the junior part of the flag meet the senior part. Fold it. No. The junior part must come to meet the senior part. No, stop. Watch it. You keep this here and you fold that over. Right? Okay, fold now. That's it. Again. No, you don't bring that part to meet this part. This part is always moved to meet. You see what I'm saying? Come up here, everyone. Come right up here. Pull it out. The junior part of the flag, that is the bottom of the flag, is brought to meet the top. The top stands still. The top doesn't go anywhere to meet anybody. The general doesn't go anywhere to meet the private. The private has to come to the general. So you bring this junior part of the flag. Don't run with the arm at all. Do that. Come on. Right. Now, bring it back again. Do the same thing again. Okay. Right. Now again, when you get to that point, the junior part has to come to meet the senior part. So the person holding the top end of the flag stands still, and you walk forward. Okay? Walk forward. Okay. And then this is put around like that. Like that. Okay? That is how you always fold the flag. Let us try it again. Now come here. The flag is on the coffin, hands on Dexter. Take it. You take it up, go down. Go here. You mustn't be afraid to do it. Don't step off the platform and fall down. You mustn't be afraid to do it. Hold it, keep it holding out firm. And when the person, usually the senior person just gives a nod. When I nod, just do it and do it in the right close. Okay? Then you fold it. Okay, this is put around there, over, and under. The chair is here. All right, there you are. Okay. All right. And we have a uniformed person. That's you. Can we have you? The ducky is lined up this way. Looking up to heaven. Are you going to put the flag on the coffin? Hands on Dexter. Is that right? Is that the right way? That's right. Alright. You're taking it off the coffin. Okay? You use it off the coffin. Take it off the coffin. 2 paces back a little. Right on a little. Well done, isn't it? Now, the flag is not only folded that way at funerals, it is folded that way all the time. When you take it down off the flag mast, you fold it like this. So when you fold it like this, it is folded like this and stored. It is also folded like this when you want to haul it up to brick it. That's how it's folded. Yes? Okay? And he subsequently changed it. I saw that picture, I wrote to the Prime Minister pointing out to him that that was quite improper. And I hope that you might be able to learn something from it. I don't suppose that you will remember everything that I've said, but think about it very tonight, and you will find that what we have just done is the most interesting and exciting subject in military matters. And I would recommend it highly to you. Take an interest in these things. Thank you all very much for inviting me home. It's been my pleasure to be here.
Colonel Quintyne, I know this is the second time that we have invited you here. I'm sure if you remember correctly, we had the same gentleman over in the left corner there pointing at what we would like to do this afternoon is to present you with a copy of that lecture which you delivered to us last term, and this is on behalf of the...
Thank you very much indeed. Very, very much.
Lieutenant Colonel Quintyne, on behalf of the officers, cadets, and recruits of the No. 19 Company, we thank you once again for coming here and sharing with us your knowledge about flags, etc. And I hope you will do come again. Thank you.
Thank you. Can just march that out there. Good afternoon.